In the world of entertainment, there's nothing more of a double-edged sword than hype. Too much hype has been known to destroy an upcoming film, like Star Wars for instance, or in this case, video games. One of the biggest examples of this was 2005's Advent Rising. This was developer Glyphix Games' first endeavor into game development, since they were mostly a graphics design studio that worked on art and cinematics for other games. Truthfully, the ingredients for a massive epic were there in Advent Rising. An engaging story with a script co-written by one of the most prolific and controversial authors of science fiction, Orson Scott Card, gameplay that looked to be exciting, fresh, and fun, a soundtrack composed by some well-known names in the business, and a campaign that included trailers played in movie theaters, a comic book series, a planned trilogy of games with spin-off titles, and a contest for $1 million prize. Advent Rising was set to be the next big, well, Star Wars. Except it wasn't. Reviews were very mixed, ranging from, hey, this is pretty good, to, hey, this is complete goat droppings. And sales weren't high enough to fulfill publisher Majesco's dream of making this epic a reality. But it's been 15 years since Advent Rising was released, so I figured now's a good time as any to take a look at this game once more and see if it was worthy of having that big epic trilogy, as well as being part of your big green collection. Our story begins with our protagonist, Gideon Wythe, returning back to a space station after escorting ambassadors for the human race to a meeting with an alien race known as the Aurelians, who see humans as gods and worship them. Before they leave, the Aurelians warn them about another race known as the Seekers, who wish to end humanity. As to be expected, the Seekers attack the space station, causing Gideon to take an escape pod, separating him from his brother Ethan, or his fiancée Olivia, depending on who you choose. Landing on the nearby planet, Gideon must find a way back to his family, while discovering the locked powers within himself needed to end the terror of the Seekers, and become the beacon of hope for humanity. With the writing chops of someone like Card, you'd expect the story to be good, and I have to say that Advent Rising does deliver on that aspect. There are some aspects of the whole humans are actually powerful beings that teeters very close to a certain popular War in the Stars franchise, but the characters do help to freshen that up, especially with Gideon and his companions. You can tell that the writers cared about this world they were creating and its characters, and their journey is one that you'll definitely want to stick with. But a story alone can't make a game good, so what about the actual gameplay? Advent Rising is a third-person shooter that you can also play in first-person for some parts, where you must guide Gideon through each chapter, themselves split into sections with checkpoints, kind of like good old Granddad Halo. In fact, even the few times that you drive a vehicle or shoot a turret in this game, it uses the standard Halo controls. So I guess if you're going to imitate game mechanics, it's good to imitate ones that work. You have a pretty nice selection of both human and alien weapons you will find along the way, like handguns, submachine guns, rifles, rocket launchers, and grenades, with every gun being dual-wieldable. Is that how you'd say it? Dual-wielding? Dual-wieldable? Yeah, I don't care. I like saying dual-wieldable. But yeah, even rocket launchers. You can wield two at the same time and just go nuts on some Seekers. Though, you might want to be careful because, shooting two rocket launchers at the same time, close blast radius, explosions, yeah. Now, since humans in Advent Rising are this long-lost race of superpowered beings that have untapped potential, Gideon gets access to special powers as the game goes on, such as telekinesis, force push, energy blasts, speed dash, portable shields, and ice blasts, as well as your jumping, dodging, and melee getting a well-deserved boost. What's neat about weapons and abilities in Advent Rising is that they level up as you continue to use them. Leveling up not only improves their accuracy and damage, but unlocks alternate modes for each weapon and power, like grenade launchers on your pistol, or being able to lift two enemies at the same time. Hell, you even get slow-mo dodging as an upgrade because, yeah, why not? What's great is that the gunplay feels terrific, as you can map and combine weapons and powers to the L and R triggers, representing each hand. So if you want to freeze enemies, then throw them across the sky, or go akimbo with handguns, the choice is yours. Meanwhile, jumping and dodging feel alright, though it's pretty annoying when you're trying to pick up a new gun, which is done by holding down either the X or Y button, depending on which hand you want, and you end up dodging away from the gun. But the one mechanic that Advent Rising promotes, so much so that it's on the back of the box, is flick targeting. Gideon will automatically lock onto an enemy in his vicinity, and you switch between targets by flicking the right analog stick. On paper, this isn't a bad idea, as you'll get into some crazy firefights pretty fast, and being able to switch targets lightning quick is cool, but the execution's very sloppy. Because of the flick targeting and auto lock-on, the camera tends to just go all over the place because an enemy's nearby, throwing off your sense of direction. You can reset the camera by clicking in the right stick, but it doesn't really help. And the cherry on top of this aggravation sundae? You can't turn it off. So if you're prone to motion sickness, the constant camera flailing might make you want to keep a trash can handy. Visually, Advent Rising has a very unique style going for it. The worlds and environments are decent and varied, ranging from the futuristic interiors of the space station, the brown, lifeless planet of Eudemia, and the bright and colorful homeworld of the Aurelians. Meanwhile, the character design is quite interesting. The humans kind of have this elongated look about them, making them seem as if they've been stretched out. It's weird, but also kind of appealing at the same time. The Aurelians have a regal look about them, almost like a mixture of the aliens from Star Wars Attack of the Clones, you know, the ones on Kamino, the cloning planet, but with armor like the Guyver, which I really enjoyed. The Seekers themselves range from really cool, like the elite soldiers and hammer grunts, to just boring, like giant ape creatures and wolf dog things. Sadly, it's hard to take it all in once the frame rate starts to dip from too much going on screen. During my playthrough, there was so much firing and characters on screen that the game legit froze. Granted, Advent Rising is known for having many bugs and glitches, and sorry to say, it is true. NPCs will just vanish after cutscenes, or enemies will just stand there waiting to get shot with no reaction. This also bleeds into the cutscenes, where even the frame rate on those dip really bad, and the transitions back to the game are just abrupt and choppy as well. This is incredibly noticeable when it will switch to a cutscene that uses the in-game engine over to one that's CG. It just shows that this game really needed more time in the digital oven. As for voice acting, it's not all terribly bad. There are some performances that are decently done, and some that sound phoned in.
Boy, are you coming or are you waiting to catch a plane?
I'm gonna try to avoid those from now on. You guys mind if I drive?
This guy's got some balls. Let's go, Paulson.
But of course, I have to say that I thoroughly enjoyed Gideon's performance, played by Will Friedle. You may know him as Ron Stoppable from Kim Possible, but I know him as this guy.
Fine! Fine! Ow! Hey, what? Hey! Ow! Ow!
Dude, let's go.
He does a good job with what he's given, and his conversations with others like his fiancée and brother Wyatt are believable.
Shuttle pilot, this is Lurium Com. Do you always make your approaches upside down?
Hey, Ethan. You know that this view is one of my favorite things about being a pilot? Thought you weren't going to be on station until later today.
You know better than anyone that flying faster than regulation speed is one of my favorite things.
True. So who do I need to get fired for letting you in comms?
That information is classified, but I've got an appointment with her when we get back from our mission.
One of the benefits of being a famous pilot?
Yeah. By the way, here's your flight plan.
Meanwhile, the soundtrack is tough to describe. Composed by Emmanuel Fratiani, Michael Richard Plowman, and additional music performed by Laurie Robinson and Tommy Tallarico, the soundtrack is an amazing orchestral score fitting of a science fiction epic, which I love. What's odd is that there's some parts in the game where there's a lot of action going on, and the music playing feels like it would be more at home in a more sad, somber scene like a death. Regardless of odd choices, this soundtrack is really good, and if you end up liking it, it was released for purchase. Now, before I do my usual ending piece that I do for every episode on Advent Rising, there's one more thing I want to talk about. Something I'm sure all of you already know, but for those who don't, I want to talk about something that was just too funny not to mention again, and that's the infamous contest. You know, where you play and win for $1 million. Yeah, let's talk about that. When Advent Rising was released, Majesco announced it was holding a contest through Xbox Live. The first player who found a set of hidden symbols in the game would win $1 million. However, the contest was scrapped due to the fact that, as Majesco put it, no technically feasible solution that would allow the contest to continue in a fair and secure manner. In other words, they didn't think any of this out. As a compensation to the players, Majesco offered the choice of 2 free games: Blood Rain 2, Guilty Gear X2, Psychonauts, Raises Hell, and or Phantom Dust. Well, I can tell you that 2 of those games play a little bit better than Advent Rising. And that leads me to the overall picture. Advent Rising had so much potential. It had a great story, great characters, and great gameplay, minus the crap targeting, all from a studio's first attempt. But, as it always seems to be the case with publishers, Majesco wanted a franchise and they wanted it fast, meaning that Glyphix couldn't take more time to polish the game to what it should have been. Now, I've heard that the PC version plays a little bit better, plus, thanks to the mod community, has patch dialogue and cutscene fixes, but I can't confirm this as of now. I can say this though, I still say give Advent Rising a try if you're looking for a decent shooter with a great story, especially for the cheap price it usually goes for. Like I said earlier, Advent Rising was supposed to be the next big epic that died due to the game's reception. A few comics did come out, and a spin-off called Advent Shadow was in development for the PlayStation Portable that would have starred Marin Steele from the main game, but it was canned. As for Glyphix, they never made another game again, and was quietly acquired by another studio in 2006. It really bummed me out that Advent Rising didn't get the recognition it deserved, as it had the makings for a great story. But you know, with all these old IPs coming back from the dead, why not give Advent Rising another shot? I mean, with the right developer, it could be one of the greats. But, who am I kidding? That's just wishful thinking. This is probably never going to be revived, but at least we got the beginning of something cool. So with that, this is the Dali Popka saying, as always, stay green, my friends, and I'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode and want more of me and the Big Green, then click that subscribe button and the bell to get notified when new content arrives. I want to say a special thank you to my patrons for helping not just the channel grow, but me as a creator. You have my forever thanks. If you're interested in the channel and would like to help it grow further, consider becoming a patron today. For the cost of a soda or an item on the dollar menu, you can help myself and the channel provide the best source of Big Green programming and more. Once again, all the thanks and love.